to the Southern Hemisphere now. So Rassie Erasmus has done a couple of interviews with the Mail. Really interesting stuff where he's talked about the video that was leaked in the aftermath of the first test that was massively critical of the referee ahead of the second test, and that clearly had an impact. But he's also talked about the Six Nations and whether or not South Africa should be as part of it. So Stephen Kisbey-Green, our resident South African, is with us. Stephen, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How's it going?
So last time we had you on the show, I think you were actually in South Africa with, what was the name of the bird?
The Drakensberg.
What are you looking at me for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the background. So you've come back.
Yes. Yeah.
And Rassie's gone public. Delighted with life. Like, absolutely delighted. I've never seen a man suspended from anything ever in his life who has enjoyed his suspension as much as Rassie is.
That's proper South African gears. What can we say? It's you get suspended, you're still getting paid, so he goes on a holiday. Why not?
It's a very long holiday where he invites a journalist from the Daily Mail down to spend, a good bit of quality time and get his side of the story across, I think, is what's happened over the last few days.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at Rassie's Twitter account. We've seen that, right?
Yeah.
This morning.
No.
Oh, no. What do you put?
Quote tweeted an organisation called that Off the Ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we'll come back to that in a while if you want to do the context first. And Matt Williams was obviously talking about him earlier in the week, so we'll come back to that.
I mean, he's put together a really nice application for the England job, if you ask me, because he's taking this Daily Mail interview as opposed to a South African organisation. He's kind of testing the waters a little bit as to how the English are going to receive him, how we're going to receive him over here. It's a very well calculated move on his part, I think.
Wow. I love my conspiracy theories on this show. That never once crossed my mind. I just thought that he's in a job for life here. It's the job of his dreams. This is exactly what he wanted. He's got everybody where he wants them. He's got the South African rugby public eating out of his hands. He's got the rest of the world. Everybody hates us. We don't care. Proper. And it worked. Everything he's done ever has worked.
Well, exactly. But in the second part of the interview, he actually goes on to say that he's only in the director of rugby role until after the World Cup.
Nice.
And he said that he'll be more than happy to take on England if England offer it to them, and if the English fans don't hate him. But at the moment, he does feel like the English fans hate him. South African fans love him. Irish fans don't really like him too much, except for maybe the Munster fans.
The fans love him, presumably. Although they do feel a little bit like he walked out on them.
Yeah. But no, I think it's still very much love for Rassie, to be honest.
I forgot you were a Munster fan there. Sorry.
Well, yeah.
Do you really think that?
I absolutely think in the Munster hardcore the feeling towards Rassie is love, and that it would have taken far more of a betrayal than for a man to go back to his home country.
Exactly.
to go. I think
that's the only one they could have forgiven him for. If he'd gone to England, it would have been like, no, screw you.
Exactly.
But the fact that he went home and won the World Cup, there is undying loyalty towards Rassie from the Munster hardcore.
I think so.
And you can understand why the South Africans seem to have that similar sort of loyalty with him after winning a World Cup. Irish fans might know what that feels like eventually. But he doesn't want to portray the South African fans by going over to England if they do think that it will be an issue. But at the same time, this is the fact that he didn't go to like SA Rugby magazine, for example, which is one of the biggest rugby magazines in South Africa. To do this sort of deep dive interview, he went to the Daily Mail. It shows that he's very intelligently placing where he wants to put these sorts of ideas. Again, there's also the idea of the Six Nations. He wants to try and win the support for South Africa joining the Six Nations if they do.
He thinks it's going to happen, judging from this.
He thinks his exact words were he thinks it would be awesome, and it does make sense from his to a certain point of view. Point of view, if you think same sort of time zone, the flight times are not too dissimilar to flying over to New Zealand or Australia. In fact, it actually takes you longer to fly from South Africa to Australia or New Zealand by about 3 or 4 hours. And then obviously when you get to New Zealand and Australia, you've got to sit around for like 6 or 7 hours to get actually used to the time zones, whereas in I mean, I've done the trip recently coming back from South Africa. It's really, I was in work the next day and there was no problem at all. So that does make sense. But I don't think it's going to happen personally. I also don't think it's a good idea personally, even though I really want to see the Springboks come and play in the Aviva so I can actually watch some good rugby in the Aviva. But no, I don't think Rassie's gunning for it to happen, but he does think the door is open.
Like, you guys really do owe us. We spanked you so bad, you got rid of your head coach and put Rassie in. That's the sliding doors moment in South African rugby. Whereas if we just beaten you by 3 points or let you have a crappy win, then you still would have had the crap coach. Rassie would have won a Heineken Cup with Munster, and life would have been totally different. So it's on us, Stephen. We will take your gratitude.
No. Well, I mean, Eddie Jones in Japan as well.
It's on us and Brent Pope's halftime spiel at that time, which obviously Rassie
also quote tweeted.
has often quote tweeted. Yeah, that was the night Rassie says he didn't make his mind up to take the South Africa job, but really it was the night I'd say that he wanted it.
So let's talk about the interview as well. What's the fallout been in South Africa? You were obviously coming up with that. I presume that is now people are like, oh, Rassie isn't just ours for life.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of South African fans at the moment, they will sort of be a little bit, by something they'll be annoyed if he does leave. Like, Rassie used the word hate a lot in the interview. I think that was also a calculated move because he wants to try and test the waters to see how much the betrayal might hurt South Africans. But I don't think too many South Africans will hate him for leaving if he does go over to England, for example. Because also you can't, like, he's not in a head coach role at the moment. He's director of rugby, and he's such a brilliant rugby brain that you can't keep him away from head coaching for too long. I don't think. He's young. He's got he's relatively young for a head coach. He's got plenty of time to win World Cups with different teams. So I don't see too many South Africans hating him for leaving. It'll be interesting though if he leaves to England, because the only team that South Africans don't really like more than the Australians is probably the English.
That's fair enough. I think everybody feels the same. So the other issues that he raised, he talked about making Siya Kolisi captain.
Yeah, that was he mentioned he lost a couple of friends in doing so, and he also quotes some of his daughter's parents telling them to tell him that he must stop trying to please his bosses or whatever. And it does kind of, like, there is that undertone. There was that undertone at the time that it was a quota signing or a quota appointment, which obviously it wasn't. And Rassie stated that point blank. Siya stated that point blank. But there was that undertone from a lot of different pockets of South African society where some people were saying, oh no, he's doing this just to make his job in South Africa more secure. Others were saying that it was purely based on the colour of Siya's skin. And
so there was a visceral racist reaction to it.
I wouldn't say it was visceral, but it was an undertone of a racist reaction to it, yes. And it was the loud minority as opposed to the overarching majority. And for a lot of people, it was like nobody noticed that it was Siya. I mean, okay, no, everyone noticed because it was obviously the first time it was a black South African captaining the Springboks. But for a lot of people, it was done on form, and you could see the leadership that he has in the group, not only with the Stormers, but also with the Springboks themselves. But at the same time, they also had the issue with Warren Whiteley. There was a lot of people saying that Warren Whiteley wasn't the right captain for the job because he wasn't the best player in his position. I mean, he was up against Dwayne Vermeulen at the time, and Warren Whiteley is a very atypical South African eighth man. He's more of a number 6 or 7 than he is an eighth man. But he was playing 8 and he was captain, and there was a lot of hatred there. But that was on a different level. So South Africans are never really happy all the time because they always think, oh no, my team's captain is better than your team's captain, so he should be captain of the Springboks, sort of thing.
Okay. Breaking Rassie news. What's he tweeting?
So there was a Monday Night Rugby clip which involved Matt Williams and Jerry Thornley, and Matt Williams was talking about Rassie's interview and said, I didn't see any value in him leaking the video. The content of that video is not bad. And Rassie Erasmus quote tweeted that clip saying, I love you, Matt Williams. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
What time in the morning is it? What was this?
That's
11:45 p.m. Irish time last night, so
Alright.
that would have been
that's about
12:1.
No, it's yeah, 12-1, yeah.
So I don't know what that means. I never know what tone to take from Rassie Erasmus. He is
Night holiday tweeting.
he's truly living rent free in all of our heads.
He was probably having a bit of a Branavein and Coke.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, that's brandy for you.
Okay. Right. So he can literally do what he wants at the moment in South Africa. He won Alliance Series pretty straightforward in the end, but like using every tactic in the book. Won a World Cup. They're the best team in the world. He is beloved. He can walk on water.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. SKG, thanks very much for that. It is